Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Intoxicated Intellect. I'm Brady, and with me today I've got Justin, Ben, and back for the first time in a while is Jake. I hope everyone in the audience is doing wonderful today. Before we go any further, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really means a lot to us. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your family's friends. Once we hit
Tell your
100,
dog.
tell your dogs and your cats too. Once we hit
You
100
get your dog
subscribers,
to subscribe, I'll be so happy.
Indeed. Four horses.
Yeah.
anyway, the reason we're saying all this is because once we hit 100 subscribers, we want to do something special. We have no idea what we're going to do yet, but we want to plan something. So 100 subscribers special. And now, Justin, today isn't a tier list video. What do we have going on today?
No, today's not about tier lists. We've done one or two of these before. But every once in a while, we here at Intoxicated Intellect, we like to build something interesting. Whether it's from our own minds or from the minds of our viewers. And this one actually is great because I'll just give you a little snippet of what we're about to hear. It's not only a comment from one of you guys, but it's also something Ben's been wanting to build. So we're not going to call it overpower builds. It's not going to be OP or anything like that, but this is going to be Intoxicated Intellect's build analysis. Ben,
I like it.
what'd you bring to the table today?
All right. So, I'm going to give everyone a rundown. If you guys want to go into the chat and go ahead and pull it up so you guys can read through so you have your questions prepped when I get to it. So the genesis for this idea was I was reading through Reddit and I saw this really cool idea for someone who was hiding the fact that they were a warlock as a artificer. So they had glasses that let them read all writing. They had two guns that just happened to do a d10 of force damage whenever they shot.
yeah.
And we had two spell slots before they wanted a short rest.
Yeah.
It really kind of intrigued me, so I was starting to plan around what I was going to do with it. And I was settling on doing a Sorlock as kind of my idea to build through that. And then right as I was getting the kind of drive to go through and make it for reals, we were looking through some comments and we saw that someone else had mentioned like doing a Sorlock specifically, and I had the same idea, a Clockwork Sorlock. So today, what I bring to the table is a Clockwork Sorlock. The lock is a Celestial Warlock, and as I said, it's a Clockwork Sorcerer. So, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that everyone in the audience can see what I'm looking at.
Yep, let's take a gander.
Yeah, let's look at this.
Let's get down into the nitty-gritty of it.
Can you zoom
it's
in a bit,
important to
Ben?
note, before we go any further, these stats may vary.
Yes,
because
these were
we
rolled.
rolled. We
Yes,
rolled on.
and I do have as far as making the build as viable as possible, I do have what priorities need to be taken, at least like first priority, second priority, depending on when you get the chance to.
Very nice.
Beautiful.
Before we go any further,
Go for
can
it.
you zoom in on that?
Let me see. Wait.
Because right now, there we go. There we go.
Control Z.
There we go. All right. So, as I said, we rolled for stats. So I rolled really well. So I was able to grab a bunch of extras on it. The two big things with this that you need to be focused on are your charisma and your con. Your cons are going to be important for saves, and your charisma is going to be your save DC as well as your social abilities. So one of the big things with this, and if anyone's ever looked at a Clockwork Soul Sorcerer or anything like that before, it's really heavy on the support. Which is something that I personally haven't played a lot of, and I like the idea of playing something that's purely built around support.
So it's nice to know kind of the role that you would fall into immediately.
Yep.
Are there any other roles that this could potentially fill other than support, or is this just like a pure support character?
It is mostly support. It can do some light healing, but it is mostly think like and you'll see as we kind of go through the abilities, think mostly like buffs and debuffs. Not necessarily straight up stacking healing or anything like that. It's more about boosting your teammates, hurting and dropping saves and abilities for the other team.
So wait. So it's Zenyatta?
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
Yes.
Not really. You have the capability of doming a few people. because I did take some specific damaging spells that also carried with it negatives for the opponent should they fail their saves.
I do see Guiding
which-
Bolt in there.
Yes. But before we get into all of that, my original plan for this was to do a Warforged, but since we are doing as optimized as we can build, and you can still kind of play with the idea of it, I went with a variant human for this one. Naturally, as you go through, one of the biggest things you're going to go through is going to be variant human has a free feat. It's really nice.
It's free.
Um,
Yeah.
So
So,
nice.
in this-
Start.
Very
Yep.
nice.
In this case, bump con and charisma, like I said earlier, for your 2 abilities. Take persuasion, deception, intimidation, whatever your preferred play style is for how you want to do your social checks. And then your feat, Eldritch Adapt. The reason you take this is because as a sorcerer, you don't get access to anything but light armor. And because you're essentially going to dump dex with this build, while I rolled well enough, you could have a dex of 10 and be fine. You don't want a negative dex, don't get me wrong. But you can essentially dump dex here. You want to take Armor of Shadows. Necessary because it is free mage armor all the time. So your base AC is 13 plus
go.
your armor,
There
plus
you
your
go.
dex. So makes you a little bit. You'll still get hit in later levels. Like we built all these at level 20. But just so you're aware, and
Anything
you're a
to
little less
mitigate,
squishy. You're a little less squishy early on. It helps out.
Especially
Um,
for these 2 classes, which are
Yep.
very notoriously
can be
squishy
squishy.
spellcasters, you know,
Mhm.
like in their own
Jeez.
ways.
Yeah,
Especially
many
the two
ways.
I went with.
yeah, Sorcerer does not have a good hit die at all.
No, Warlock has a saving subclass for it, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Continue on, Ben.
All right. So, kind of as we're going through this, Sorcerer is your main class going through this. I took 14 levels of Sorcerer, 6 levels of Warlock. We'll get to exactly why here in just a bit. But the as you're going through Sorcerer, with your proficiencies, Persuasion, Intimidation, Deception, whatever fills your playstyle out a little more just to balance it. Sometimes it's better to lie, sometimes better to yell at somebody, better to be persuasive, kind of help balance that out a little bit. And then I took what is it? Arcana as my other proficiency. I rolled pretty well on intelligence, and because we're also taking Warlock, you have the option of becoming a researcher if your party doesn't have one, if you roll high enough for intelligence.
That's another good
Which in this
utility
case,
roll.
like I said, in this case I did. I have a +3 to intelligence because I rolled stupid good for this.
Yeah. Can you scroll
Very
down
good.
for the rest of the skills? I
Yep.
just want to see the rest of
Let
them.
me
Okay.
zoom out just
Okay,
a
those
hair
are-
so we can see.
Oh no,
all
I
of
just
them.
wanted to see what all the proficiencies
Yep.
and such
Yeah.
were.
Now,
Um,
something I'm sure you cover, but I'm curious to know as you level up. Obviously, you get choice of skill points or feats. What did you choose?
Yep. So, like I've been saying, as you're leveling up, your ability score should be trying to get charisma to 20 as quickly as possible, and then trying to get con up. I left my con at 18. You should be pretty good with that, and I'll explain why here in a little bit. Getting it to 20 would be nice, but I'd rather have certain feats and all that along with it. So, I'm going to go through the basic, like, Sorcerer, Warlock, what you're going to get from both of those, and then I'll talk through the optional feats that you take depending on how you roll.
All
Okay.
right, let's
Cool.
go.
Let's see
All
it.
right. So, starting in Sorcerer, once you get your meta magic, the 2 that you're going to want with this particular class, Twinned and Heightened, are your top 2.
Yep.
Twinned because it lets you split your buffs and debuffs. Heightened because it increases the saving throw.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Yeah.
don't want a banishment or a counterspell or something to fail, heighten that bitch.
You've just doubled and amplified your spell.
Okay.
Exactly. And then after that, as you continue down, you'll eventually get to your next. You'll get another meta magic option, subtle spell at that point, because through Warlock you'll get counterspell. Subtle spell, counterspell cannot be countered.
Oh, okay.
You can't counterspell a subtle counterspell.
No, you can't. And
'Cause
that
you don't know
is-
what's
and then subtle
happening.
spell also has a whole bunch of extra uses in it, but that was the main reason I took subtled afterwards.
Oh,
And
what
then
was the
if you-
subclass? What was the subclass?
Clockwork
on
Soul.
Oh, that's right.
Clockwork
that's right.
Soul.
Sorry.
And then finally, and with the, I was able to get this with a feat, but if you do get the option later to take Meta Magic Adept, so you get a couple extra sorcerer points to add in, take Distant and Extended.
Oh,
Distant
yes.
increases your range. Extended, if something lasts, I want to say like 10 minutes, it lasts 24 hours instead.
Add
Oh, wow.
range and duration.
Yep. So, if you
Beautiful.
can take Meta Magic Adept, that is the most important additional feat to take along with this. That being said, get through Con and Charisma first.
Yeah. Extended
Standard.
is when you cast a spell that has a duration of a minute or longer, you can spend a sorcery point to
It's a
double
minute,
it.
that's it.
Well, and then that sorcery point doubles that length of time up to a maximum of 24 hours.
That's it. Okay. But yeah, you basically get to extend
Cool.
a whole bunch. And considering the buffs and stuff that come along with this class, and depending on how you want to play this, you also get access to a whole bunch of different buffs. These are just the ones I went with when we get there. And I'll go through what you get through that. I'm going to hop into the builder real fast just so you guys can see exactly what we're going for.
Hell yeah.
So,
You
as
know,
we go through, go for it, Jake.
I have to say, as a primarily either martial or artificer player, reading through this, I've never really read through a sorcerer or what I would call a wizard. Might have to build one of these.
Oh, dude, I am right
Looks
there
like
with you.
fun.
I am typically a martial or a half caster at most. This is the first time I've really been like, man, I want to play a full caster.
Yeah, this
Um,
looks awesome.
Don't tell
Sorcerer's got
Jack.
some fun mechanics too, you know. Yeah.
Jack,
They
Jack
have a
watch
dynamic we
videos.
really can't screw with. One of them usually goes
Oh,
fast,
it
the
works
other
great
goes-
as we have it, but sometimes we can flip.
Jack's
That's
not
what I'm
allowed to
saying.
see this video.
I'd like to see Justin is not a bard, just to see what he could do.
I would be curious to see that as well.
I did it once. The one shot never aired.
Yeah, we had some issues
Yeah.
with that one, unfortunately.
I was a barbarian medic.
It was
That's
really cool.
right.
Yeah, that was the we played Left 4 Dead with
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
with
great.
yeah, I know. If we get the chance to again, I want to do something like that again. I have ideas to flush that out. But back to what we
Sorry,
were doing
yeah,
before we
back
get
to
too
it.
far
Yeah,
off topic.
sorry.
At first level, you get access to something called Restore Balance. Essentially, what this lets you do is cancel disadvantage or advantage on a target creature that you can see within 60 feet of you. You
It
can
is
make it a
Zenyatta.
straight roll instead of a advantage or disadvantage roll.
That's powerful.
And you get this a number of times
That's
equals
great.
your proficiency bonus, which at level 20 is not insignificant.
It's still
really
like
fun.
it's still gonna be pretty.
Yeah, it's basically like with Grave Cleric how you can cancel out a crit. It's
Yeah.
that, but the light version of that. This is like the free to play version of that.
Premium version.
Yeah, the freemium version. As we continue on, as I said, taking on to meta magic and all of that, we come down to this Bastion of Law. So, you can tap into the Grand Equation of Existence, and essentially you spend 1 to 5 sorcery points, and you get access to, depending on how many you spend, you get access to a number of d8s equal to the number of sorcery points you spent. What this then allows you to do is basically shield another creature, and if they were to get hit, they get to roll those d8s and subtract the damage taken from subtract the total from the damage taken.
Oh.
Right.
So potentially up to 5d8, and once again, your late game sorcery points you can get pretty high, and if you get that meta magic adept, that's an additional 2 that you get to add in on that.
Very nice.
Yep. And then lastly, at 14th level, where I kind of ended this, you get access to what's called the Trance of Order. So the Trance of Order is a duration of a minute. Attack rolls against you cannot benefit from advantage. Whenever you make an attack roll, ability check, or a saving throw, it's like having reliable talent. You can't roll lower than a 10.
That's just
Hmm.
free
Wow.
successes.
Yeah.
So
At that
essentially,
At
take that
point,
with
yeah.
level 20 Eldritch Blast with Repelling Blast, and someone's getting shoved back 40 to 50 feet a turn, because fuck you, I'm rolling a minimum of a 21.
Jesus. Somebody that likes to beat
Well,
stuff over
what
the head with a
level-
hammer?
What?
Screw you.
Oh,
Yeah.
because
Bam,
Eldritch
bam,
Blast.
bam, bam, bam.
Eldritch Blast is your
Uh-huh.
overall level retroactive, right?
Yep.
hmm
That's why. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Okay.
wait
Yep.
a minute for a second.
No, I went and I double checked, and yeah.
Okay. So I was just about to ask, yeah, how does this? Why does it work? Like, what
So-
is it about a sorcerer and a warlock? Like, what's the bread and butter of them working in tandem? The meat and
So the-
potatoes of it.
The bread and butter of them working together, and the reason I went with the Celestial Warlock, is you get access to a huge array of buffing spells. From Clockwork, you get access to Alarm, Protection from Evil, Good, Aid, which is really powerful, even though it's super underused. Lesser restoration, dispel magic, protection from energy, freedom of movement, greater
That's
restoration, wall of force. And that's you get access to all of those because you're a level 14 sorcerer at level 20. So being able to twin and heighten those kind of spells for like dispel magic, for greater restoration, that kind of stuff allows you to be this very heavy font of basically
Just
buff and debuff.
like
yeah,
anti-debuff,
anti-debuff,
restore,
yep.
like just
And
healing energy.
Yep, and I'll get into some of the other fun stuff that you can do, but the reason these two work together is with the Celestial Warlock, one of the main things that you're going to get, and I'll start here with the Pact Boon. So, like I said earlier, one of the big things that you need to build into is your con. A lot of what you're going to be doing is concentration. Maintaining it or choosing when to drop it, and I'll get into that why I say that in just a second. Maintaining it or when to drop it. But one of the Pact Boon that I went with is your Pact of the Talisman. Essentially, what this is bless for you individually. Whenever you fail a saving throw, you roll a d4 and add the result
Zoom in a
to
smidge
your
for
roll.
me.
Yep, can do. You get to add the how's that?
Beautiful. Thank you.
Fantastic.
So you get to add a d4 onto your save, potentially saving the con save, maintaining your slow or your Crown of Madness or whatever other buff that debuff that you're going with, or buff that you're going with, depending.
Now, it says ability check, not saving throw. How can that factor in?
Oh wait, does it say?
Yep, it is ability check.
It is ability check. Excuse me. This is more fine. You're out of combat and stuff like that. If you want to avoid a combat, you're trying to like lie your way through something like that. I misunderstood that. That is on me. Don't worry, I fixed it later. We're good.
All right.
Brady knows why. I've talked to him about this build a little bit. So you get to add it to your ability check. It's still powerful. There's a lot of really good options here. Tome is really good for getting. Yeah, Tome is really good for getting extra cantrips. Which honestly, I get access to 10 already, so it's not the end of the world to not have. Chain is nice to have your familiar. Blade doesn't really make sense. I like Talisman just because it makes sure it gives me an extra little boost to my ability checks that I may not be as confident in. If I need to be the researcher, but I'm low on intelligence, I can add this in and potentially make the ability check.
This is a good fail safe for the rolls being a little bit spotty. I think as well. This is a good way to still maintain skill checks and maintain out of combat utility for an in combat and just general utility character.
Yep. So
yeah,
I really like it for that. Now, I misread that, which is on me. However, it's alright, I fixed it anyways. Instead of taking a feat for Warcaster, which lets you give advantage on your con saves, and this is why you take Warlock, you get access to Eldritch Mind. You have advantage on Constitution saving throws to maintain your concentration.
I was about to ask.
Mini Warcaster.
Yeah, that's cool.
So this is one of the big reasons why these work so well together.
And
in addition to that, Repelling Blast.
Nice.
And these are your top two outside of Armor of Shadows, which I already mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
These are your, and literally in order I have them listed here. It's Armor of Shadows, then Eldritch Mind, then Eldritch Blast, then Agonizing Blast. And I'll get to Agonizing here in a bit. The reason you want Repelling Blast is you still don't have a super heavy AC. I have a decent dex and mine's only 15.
Yeah.
So
with
in order to help
180 HP to remind you.
Yeah.
Yep, with 180 HP.
Still
So
kind of
using
squishy.
Repelling Blast, if someone's trying to charge me, most of the time, creatures only have 30 feet of movement. At this level, I think I get 4 or 5 Eldritch Blasts. I'd have to look, and I can check here in a little bit, but basically 40. If I hit with all of them, 40 feet knocked back, so they cannot move and attack me in the same turn. In addition to that, if another ally has a AoE spell going on, or even if the enemy does, if I position myself correctly, I can just keep repelling blasting somebody into that AoE, taking their damage from either their ally or from my ally. This is not your...
Yeah.
Yep. This is a indirect. The way I built this character is to do damage indirectly. Then, lastly is Agonizing Blast. This is your least important Eldritch invocation to take. The main reason I took this is it just adds your charisma modifier. It's a straight boost to your DPR. It's always nice to have.
Extra damage is good.
Extra damage. You
Mhm.
can't really
Damage is
complain
nice.
about it. There's this one, honestly, you can switch out with whatever your party needs. In this case, I just took it for the additional bump to damage. Makes your repelling blast hit just a little bit harder. Might make the difference in someone getting downed in an AoE versus getting out of an AoE.
Yeah.
So, that was kind of where I went with there. Now, the two big things that you get are a couple big things that you get with Warlock. You get access to a few bonus cantrips, mainly Light and Sacred Flame. Light? Who cares if you have Dark Vision? I have Light. Fuck it. And that's free. I don't have to spend any resources to take it. Sacred Flame, having additional radiant damage is really big. As Jack likes to point out, having multiple ways to damage somebody based on getting around resistances is key. Which the cantrips are where a lot of that comes from on this character. Your cantrips are your main damage dealers. Your spells are almost all about buff and debuff.
And at this level, cantrips do a decent bit of damage.
Can we
Yeah,
take
they
a
do.
look at the spells you chose?
We can in just a minute. I want to get through this, and then I'll hop
Okay.
over and we can look through that.
Wasn't sure where we were.
Yep. So, Healing Light, you get at first level. You get access to a pool of D6s based on your Warlock level. So at this level, 66. You can spend those as a bonus action to heal those around you. So, this is a just additional font of healing for your party. It can help get people up. It's basically there to get people up from when they're downed. Get people back in the fight. It's a bonus action heal. That is all I would ever use this for. It is there like, my wizard's down. Pop them back up as a bonus action and then continue on with what I'm doing. Or shit, my tank's down. I need to get them back up. Pop them back up. So that is what those are there for. And you regain all expended dice on a long rest. So if you don't use a lot,
Nice.
it doesn't matter. But if you use them all, you do get them back.
That's a lot like Healing Word.
Yep, it's
Like
the
that.
basic idea. Basic idea is
Yep.
that, but without having the spell slot. And then in addition to that, at 6th level, you gain resistance to radiant damage. And when you cast a spell that deals radiant or fire damage, you add your charisma mod to one of the rolls. So your Sacred Flame, Firebolt, anything like that, extra damage, but mainly it's for the resistance to radiant damage, because you never know when that shit's going to come around to haunt you.
Right. It's not going to be a big thing. It's not going to come around that often per se. But on the right campaign, you may find yourself fighting angels or denizens and enforcers of a higher power. That
And
we
then with
said
this build, Ben, how much
Yep.
does the converting spell slots to sorcery points take effect with the Warlock Sorcerer multiclass?
Honestly, because you're spending most of your stuff on buff and debuff that are concentration based, it doesn't factor in a whole lot. It's something that is useful if you're going a really long time without being able to take a break, but because you get 2 spell slots that automatically regen on a short rest from your Warlock, those are the ones that you're going to pull from originally. And the way that it's worded is, at least based on my reference, and I'm happy to hear from audience and from our DM, is I can cast my sorcerer spells with my Warlock slots.
Yes.
Which at this level of Warlock, only level 3, but I can still cast Haste and Slow and that kind of stuff with those slots, which I get
there's a
back on
lot of
short
stuff
rest
you can
anyways.
do up to a level 3 spell
and that is
slot.
very useful.
Yeah.
Exactly. So for
And
this
it's important to
particular
note
build,
that they work in a utility fashion too. That this
Yep.
is built toward a utility thing. It's not meant to be out there cannonballing
this is not a
everything
blaster.
it comes across.
Yeah.
It's not meant for
This
that.
is not Captain Jack Wick. This is different.
No, this is your utility man that you can count on to always have something to help you out.
Indeed.
Yep. And with Warlocks, when you get your expanded spell list, you get access to these. You do not get them as spells. So you'll see a couple carryovers, but I just didn't have to spend those because I already got them with the Clockwork. Cure
Okay.
Wounds, Guiding Bolt, Flaming Sphere, Lesser Restoration, Revivify is a big one. Daylight, Guardian of
gee.
Faith, Wall of Fire, Flame Strike, and Greater Restoration.
But yeah, with this one, that's
I get access to them, but
Warlock.
they're not...
Right. So those last 2 lines, the spell levels 4 and 5, we don't have to worry about.
Exactly.
You don't get. You're not gonna get to that point with this. With the
If you-
warlock at 6 levels.
Yeah, if you're only gonna go to like level 12 or something like that, honestly, I would stop pushing sorcerer at level 6 once you get Bastion of Law, and then go and get all your celestial stuff after that.
There's
Now,
different split for flavor.
Yep, you mentioned
options.
spells.
Yeah, I want to see
one of the
it.
things that you'll notice, and actually, it might be better to do this off of here, so we can see what all the different cantrips and all that are. Or would it be? Do you guys want to be able to see what the different spells do?
No, this works.
Okay.
Either one's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So I get access to 4 Eldritch Blasts at this level to answer that question. So between both Sorcerer and Warlock, I get access to. I took Eldritch Blast, Firebolt, Friends, Frostbite, Light, Message, Mind Sliver, Minor Illusion, Prestidigitation, Sacred Flame, and Toll the Dead.
Mind Sliver is fun.
Yes, it is. It
Psychic
is
damage on an Intellect save, which is a
on
rare
a
save to make.
Yep. And then it also subtracts a D4 from the next saving throw it has to make.
Mhm.
If it fails.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh.
once again,
You're
very useful
bored.
for
Wow.
helping out other members of your party. And one of the things you'll notice, we have force damage, fire damage, cold damage, psychic damage, radiant damage, necrotic damage.
A little bit
So
of
you're
everything.
set for a little, for everything.
Yeah, I can fight anything.
And 9 times
it
out of
took-
10, that Toll the Dead's
I
gonna
think
do
you're only
D12s.
missing like poison.
And there's a ton of monsters that are resistant to poison, so I don't really ever care about taking poison anyways. I could have. I do get access to like poison spray. But yeah.
D12s, Brady? Mine's
No, Toll the
For
Dead.
Toll the Dead. If they are missing health, it is a D12 instead of a D8.
So, like I said, 9 times out of 10, that Toll the Dead is gonna be a 4d12 cantrip instead of a 4d8.
If
Good
someone's hit them
lord.
once, even with something like a vicious mockery.
Yep.
That's a hell of a
Necrotic
freaking
damage is one of
cantrip.
those that there are definitely things that are resistant to it, but there are a lot that aren't.
Very
Necrotic
nice.
is one of those that's
kind of in the middle. Radiant and
really,
necrotic.
like-
If one works, the other one doesn't. If the other one works, the other, you're good. And then friends, they do become angry at you after it fails, but it's a good way to help bluff your way through something if you need it without expending resources. Minor Illusion, Prestidigitation, Message are all utility-based cantrips. It's always nice to have Message in your party.
Oh,
Always. And I took Message from the Sorcerer's tree.
And with
Now-
Distance Spell, that helps a lot.
Yes, it does. And I'll go. I'll show you guys all what these are. I'm only gonna go through the really
Right.
big ones. That
I mean,
at
we
least as
know a
far as
lot
the
of them.
buffed and
Let's
debuffed,
yeah, let's talk about what's crucial to what this utility character is all about.
Right.
Because I mean,
So-
I know what this guy's self does.
Right. Your 3 big ones, at least combat wise, and potentially out of combat wise for this sorcerer or this Sorlock build, are gonna be, or I guess 4 are gonna be Charm Person, always useful. Especially with a 19 in your charisma saves.
Yeah.
And potentially ability to heighten it to make it, I think it's like a 22. That's a rough save to make.
That's a nice save, and you have ways
Yeah.
of
Indeed.
dealing with advantage and disadvantage too.
Exactly.
You've
Cure
got the
Wounds.
stack. You've got
It's
the dex.
always nice to have
Always
an additional
helpful.
font of healing if you need it. If I ever run out of my Warlock heals, I have this as an extra.
You've got a couple options for it, and it does
Yep.
about the same thing. Yeah.
Pretty close to. And then Guiding Bolt. Once again, buffing. I'm trying to get my Paladin to fish for smites, or I'm trying to get my Rogue to fish for sneak attack damage. Guiding Bolt. It's a good
Appreciates that.
otter spell. I get at least 4 of them if I only use my first level spell slots, but I can upcast. And then finally, Sleep. Sleep is on here, especially at level 20, purely as an upcastable spell.
Sleep.
Because for every level past first that you spend, and I have access up to level 7 spells, you get 2 extra D8 worth of hit points to be into effect.
Oh shit.
And you have a base number of 5d8. So if I cast it at 7th level, that's
19d8?
19d8 worth of hit points that can cost.
Lord.
So if we really need to get out of a public space, or we need to get through a public space, throw that up. Put everyone to sleep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Push party through. Not
Alright.
super useful as far as a combat spell, but out of combat with upcasting ability.
I mean,
And if you
That's-
really need to recharge a spell,
Well,
I got
combat's
both of
going to
them
be
for it.
catered as far as hit points go to really make sleep a lot more difficult.
yeah,
but
but
like,
out of
so,
combat, when I need to put a bunch of civilians to sleep,
right.
Cool.
Yeah, civilians aren't going to have that much HP. It's going to be pretty
Yep.
easy to get them to
I can
sleep.
cast that level 3 and put half a town to sleep.
That's insane.
I just want to backtrack for just 1 second.
Go for it.
We were talking about Guiding Bolt, and you were talking about casting it at a certain level. Is it just a certain Warlock subclass that requires you cast everything at the highest level, or is it Warlock?
No. So the reason having Sorcerer and Warlock together allows me to cast things up to level 7, or I can use my Warlock spell slots to cast at level 3.
You use your Warlock spell slots to cast the highest spells,
Yeah. I use my
gain
Warlock spell
access-
slots.
but you gain access to, well, not the
Yeah.
highest spells per se, but the highest spell slots, the most powerful things you're going to use. You use a Warlock. for because
The
it's
Warlock
the
spell
default.
slots are built as the bread and butter buff and debuff, and I'll get to those here in
Okay.
like 2 levels.
And
The
that's because those
question
reset at
is,
a short
I-
rest.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how it works, like with specifically spells you get from Warlock.
Mhm. So,
Wouldn't it? I mean, I don't know how it's written, but the spells you just get from Warlock, I'm not sure that just by being a sorcerer on the other side of it doesn't mean you have to cast those spells at the highest level. I
So,
mean, something tells me you should
depends
have to
on-
cast the spells you got from Warlock at the highest level.
You don't, which is the fun part.
That's why this multi-class is amazing. One of many
Yeah.
reasons.
So when you start multi-classing with spellcaster, specifically with Warlock, you can mix and match where your spell slots are coming from, or what your spell slots are being used for. So I can cast my Warlock spells with Sorcerer spell slots. I can cast my Sorcerer spells with Warlock spell slots.
That's
Because
dumb.
you're just spending the spell slots based on what you have.
Yep.
That's dumb.
My Sorcerer spell slots only come back on a long rest. My Warlock spell slots, the 2 of them I get, come back on a short rest.
That's so dumb.
And that's raw. That's
That's
rules
That's
raw.
raw. As
That's-
rules is written.
Wow.
Fuck
That's
you,
cool.
RAI people.
Broken.
Mm-hmm.
I told you
That's
before
why-
this. My entire goal of this video is to just call you broken fucks.
Yeah, no, and I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
The big thing that to note is that I only get access to like 4 first levels, 3 second levels. My spell slots are limited. But because of that short rest capability, I get access to a lot more than you would think.
But in a
And with the
pinch, you've also
sorcery-
got, in a pinch, you've got the cantrips to do
Yep.
whatever.
Get me through what I need.
And
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
your
Which is
sorcery
why you get
points,
10 of them.
with your sorcery points and the way you've built into it, you can enhance those spells to make
Uh-huh.
them more effective in the moment. Whether
Yep.
it's against multiple enemies, going further, lasting longer.
Yep.
Like that's gonna
Yeah.
save you spell slots in its own way, and that's the merit of the sorcerer.
Lasting longer
Yep.
is always a good thing.
Hey, that's what she
Always.
said.
That is, yeah. Those
Uh-huh.
were her
Alright.
words.
All right,
Those
Ben.
are her
What,
words.
any like last major things that the audience
Okay.
needs to be aware on this build?
So as I said earlier, we'll just go through the hit or miss. I just wanted to run through those first levels because those are the ones you're going to spend at varying levels depending on what's going on. Counterspell, I will only ever cast subtly. I am maintaining certain spell slots, and I am maintaining certain sorcerer points to cast that subtly.
Mm.
If I need to make sure this counterspell cannot be counterspelled, if this needs to work, subtle spell, counterspell.
Yeah.
It cannot be stopped.
That's the maximum insurance.
I have to make the save if it's a high enough level. But if I say my 7th level, there's a lot that I'll be able to just auto cancel.
Yeah,
And there's nothing an enemy lich can do against me because it's subtle.
and they don't know it's being cast.
Exactly.
Very nice.
They're all confident casting their spell with their words and their little actions.
And you're just sitting there
probably their
silent
material
as can
components,
be.
And you're like,
Yep.
your counter spell incantation is fuck this guy.
Yeah, straight up. Fuck you. And the 3 big ones, one that I'll go through really quick, the other 2 that take a little bit longer. Revivify. Taken as a warlock, you ability to cast it with sorcerer, or if something goes horribly wrong, and you for whatever reason lack a healer or someone's out of spell slots, you have the option for Revivify. If you have the option to take a resurrection spell, you take it. I don't give a fuck. You take it.
Doesn't matter what class you are.
Yeah, you take it.
Always
But
gathered.
the two big ones, and these are the ones where your warlock spell slots come into play: haste and slow. Twinned haste, heightened slow.
And you're
various
controlling the pace of the battlefield.
Yeah.
Yep. Also,
Welcome to the Sigic Order.
Yep. A fun use of haste, based on rules as written, though as a DM I would make them have to make a save for this. You can cast haste on your enemies and then immediately drop it, therefore skipping their turns.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can win that shit.
Yep.
And guess what? I'm using my warlock spell slots for the first 2 casts of those every single time, because when we take a short rest, guess who's got haste and slow back, bitch?
Fuck, just
This is where this build is. This is where this build breaks.
I can just see the fuckery now.
Yeah.
so much.
Haste, if I put it on 2 of my melee casters and then just keep people the hell away from me with Repelling Blast, which is why it's there. Guess who's taking 4 to 6 to 8 attacks a turn, depending on who it is. And if it's a fighter and they get hasted and they have
Action surge.
Guess who's taking all the attacks?
Oh my god.
Wow.
That's how you one-shot a level
then
20
that's just-
DBEG.
And then that's just 1, so you're twinning that spell.
So I have. Yeah,
You're gonna
let's
twin
give my
that and
fighter-
throw haste on 2 of your marshals.
Or throw it on a fighter and a marshal, so the marshal gets a 2nd spellcast.
Fighter and a caster. You said
Sorry,
marshal.
fighter and a caster, or a marshal and a caster, so the caster gets a 2nd spellcast in their turn.
Yeah.
So you're saying I can
Because
smite in
level
4
20
turns,
spells,
and then,
yes, you can.
and then you fucking throw it on Jack, and he does his Jack stuff, and whoever's we're fighting is just dead.
Hear me
Yeah,
out.
pretty much.
Hear me out.
That's basically
You throw haste onto your wizard. Your wizard then casts haste on another party member.
a haste
Yes,
chain.
that's their free action.
No, dog.
That's their free
I think
action.
it's
Is to cast haste again.
So through haste on your haste, so you can haste while you haste.
A sense
Yep.
of urgency swept amongst the party.
And the flavor as a Clockwork Soul, you're messing with time. These are the main 2 spells you're going to be casting in combat.
God,
Beautiful.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it so much.
You do also get access to Banishment. I did take that, and my 7th level spell, if anyone is curious, that I took. Where is it? 7th level. Prismatic Spray. It's one of the few
Wow.
damaging ones I took, because you get a whole bunch of damaging options depending on what you roll. Plus, it's a cone,
Prismatic.
and everyone has to take a very different damage.
Yeah.
Plus, Mass Suggestion's really
Prismatic.
fun. I took that later.
You can pause on the video and find all of these spells and what he did. Ben,
Yep,
do you have any last thoughts? Anything you want to sum up about this class? I want to note that they can play the flute.
Yes, they can
Ooh.
play the flute. I did take the Far Traveler background for an extra cup for insight and perception things. Plus, it's
Yeah.
always fun to be able to play an instrument.
Oh yeah.
How he did it. If you're a Clockwork Soul, obviously you've traveled the realms. Anybody else? Anything? Final thoughts?
Ben, I love
Figure
this
we
build,
gotta wrap
and
up.
I'm excited
I-
to see you play it at some point.
I
I
need to
wanna
have it
play
in my
this.
party and just yeah.
Yeah, no, I want to play this character so bad.
We like re-roll our characters and just like start over at like level 15 and just
This is definitely
Shenanigans.
this character is gonna come up in a one shot at some point.
we need to run a high level campaign just for giggles.
And then,
We need
if
to
anyone is
get-
curious, if the video is still up, I am doing a slow-ish scroll through all my spells, so you can see what I took.
It is still going up. But with that, I want
So,
to Justin
yeah.
take it.
yeah, you guys could see what you thought of it. You guys could check out the spells. We're going to be doing more of these characters so that we can do the one-shot Jake's talking about. Tell us
Yep.
what you thought of this Tell us what you thought, how you would tweak it to kind of cater your own RP kind of stuff. Make it a different character in the comments. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned every Monday and Thursday at Intoxicated Intellect on YouTube. And we'll see you next time, folks. Goodbye.
Peace.
See you, everybody.